afternoon to you, FireOne listeners. We're back again today, Saturday, the last Saturday of June. I hope your day is going really well. We are doing really awesome out here in the Rockies. Thanks for tuning in to FireOne. We really appreciate you and appreciate your time joining us today. Um, if you're listening on the radio, we really appreciate that. And if you're watching us live on Facebook and YouTube, we appreciate you as well. Make sure you share our stream on both Facebook and YouTube. Like our page, send in your comment. You're always welcome. Thank you for tuning in.
This is FireOne Radio. Thanks for listening.
Okay, I want to welcome you back, our viewers. Thanks for tuning in again to Fire One Radio. You're also watching us live on Facebook and YouTube. We have a very important guest on the line. We have a lot of people watching us all over the world. And I understand the president of Ghana is watching us too as well. Um, we are here today to discuss a lot of matters that is going on in Ghana. So if you're Ghanaian and you want to give us a call when the line's open to share your thought and views, that would be really awesome. We have on the line Mr. Alton Grove. Um, he is the correspondent to the president from multimedia. And we'll be asking him a few questions of what is going on in Ghana, what happened today, and what took place last week to the MPP parliamentary primaries last week. Mr. Alton Grove, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here and I can hear you.
Okay, that is really great. Welcome to our show, and it's really an honor to have you on today. Just to give us a brief, what is going on out in Ghana. So how is Ghana?
Well, thank you very much. Ghana is doing well. I'm sure you're aware that globally, every country is fighting COVID-19, and Ghana is no exception. So Ghana has had its own share of the impact of the virus,
Mm-hmm.
and the president, since Ghana recorded its first case, instituted measures to curtail further spread, and currently our borders are closed. Uh, Last 2 weeks, the government reopened the universities, but only for those who are in their final year. And this week, Monday, those in the senior high school also went back to school. And also, we are talking about those in their final year. And on Monday, those in the junior high would also go to school to prepare to write their final exam, which is the standard for which they can graduate to the senior high school or high school, as you say it in the US. So basically, what is left is for government to fully open the country, and that will include the opening of our borders. Now you can't fly into Ghana because all the borders, the airports, land borders, all are closed.
Mm-hmm.
And government is of the view that it is one of the key measures to ensure that we are able to address further spread of the virus. So, in a brief, this is the state of Ghana as far as the fight against COVID-19 is concerned. But beyond that, everything is going well.
Really good to know. So can you tell us about the MPP primaries, the parliamentary primaries? What happened last week? How did it go? How were they able to get everything done with this COVID-19? What is going on? And were they able to practice social distancing um, in the course of that?
Right. So last week, the party selected uh, parliamentary candidates for the December 2020 general elections, and this took place in constituencies. The MPP, they have sitting MPs. What it means is that it is a seat the MPP is occupying already in Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
So they held the primaries in 101 constituencies. Parliament has 275 seats, but last year they did contests in areas they described as orphan areas, and these are areas already occupied by the opposition parties. So last 30 days was for areas that the party is already occupying that seat in parliament, and it came under the umbrella of restrictions already announced by government to address further spread of COVID-19. But the excitement that greeted the announcement for those who won was such that the supporters could not adhere to the safety protocols and thereby violating the protocols in place. Now, this has received criticism from a section of the society, most especially from the Christian community. Remember that government has already instructed that churches can reopen, but they can do so for only an hour. And even within the hour, only 100 people can participate in the service. Now, what the churches are saying is that when the MPP held the parliamentary primaries, it lasted for close to 4 hours, and it brought together thousands of people. And at the end of the day, they did not respect the protocols and the laws, passed by Parliament to punish those who go contrary to the law, and they accuse government of being selective in the application of the law, restricting people as far as adhering to the safety protocols are concerned. So that's what happened last week, and today the climax was the Special Delegates Congress.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the acclamation of President Akufo-Addo.
Well, sounds good. So can you tell us what happened today and how did it go?
So the exercise today brought to an end the internal arrangements within the MPP ahead of the December general elections. December 7th, Ghanaians of voting rights will go to the polls and elect a president and 275 members of parliament. Now, this what happened today was originally scheduled for May, because of COVID-19, it had to be re-engineered, and so that's what we witnessed today. Now, usually the party will select delegates from across the country, and we are looking at over 5,000 people to go and decide who should lead the party. At the time the party closed nominations, only one person had filed the papers to contest the presidency on the ticket of the MPP, and we are talking about the sitting president, Nana Akufo-Addo. So it was obviously going to be an acclamation, but in what form and shape was it going to take? The party decided that they will now invite selected people to constitute the National Council. So they will take decision on behalf of the party because the Congress is the highest decision making body of the party. Instead of the 5,000 people, they decided to select some people from Parliament, the former president, former running mates, uh, members of the council of the party, the elders, all of them came together and then endorsed the president as the MPP's candidate for the December 2020 general election. President Akufo-Addo accepted the acclamation and in so doing also named the sitting vice president, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, as his running mate. And this will be the fourth time the two gentlemen will be contesting the presidency on the ticket of the MPP. So that brings to an end the internal contest within the MPP ahead of the general election. Now, what is left is for party to now campaign across the length and breadth of the country to convince Ghanaians as to why they should be given a second opportunity to govern the nation.
So, how was it done? Since they can have like a larger number of people meeting, how did they do it?
So what happened was that this morning at the Alisa Hotel, the first event was a closed door one. Members of the media were not allowed inside. And usually at that particular meeting, President Akufo-Addo disclosed to members of council his choice for running mate. And usually they would debate it and then come to a consensus. If council agrees with the choice of the president, they will go ahead and announce it. So this is what happened in the morning, and this was behind closed doors. So President Akufo presented the name of Dr. Bawumia as his running mate, and council accepted it. And then council in turn outdoored President Akufo and Dr. Bawumia before and the full block of members of Congress, and we are talking about over a little over 100 uh, people. After which the media was allowed into the auditorium for the official program to start. So we heard speeches from the general secretary of the party who reported to Congress, the national chairman of the party, Freddie Blay, who also reported to Congress. The treasurer of the party also gave account of the party financial position. And then we heard from Dr. Bawumia, who is the vice president of the Republic and also chairs the government economic management team. And then lastly, President Akufo-Addo also spoke and then, I mean, told Ghanaians why he is in a better position than John Mahama to lead the country for the next 4 years. As to whether the people of Ghana accepts his explanation and his justification for seeking re-election, December 7th will tell.
Good to know. So are there any plans? What is next for the party? Are they going to start? How do they plan on starting going on campaign trail? How are they planning on doing that with all this COVID stuff going on?
So it is something that everybody is asking and wanting, answers from the leadership of the party and the campaign coordinator for Nana Akufo. If you've been following politics in Ghana since the inception of constitutional rule in 1992, our campaigns have always been characterized by large gatherings, and sometimes the popularity of the candidate is determined by the number of people who will come out to listen to him when they pitch camp in the villages, in the districts, and in the capital. So your popularity is usually measured by how many people attend your rally.
Mhm.
Now we are in an era where there is restriction on movement and people coming together. There is this, you know, key rule which says that there should be social distancing and people should, cover their face. As a matter of fact, a new executive instrument signed by the president has punishment for those who, are seen in public places and not wearing the face mask. You could be in jail for as long as 10 years or pay a fine of close to 50,000 Ghana cedi, which is about 11,000 United States dollars. So, how the parties plan to campaign, hold rallies across the country without bringing in so many people, I'm sure it's something that their strategists
Mhm.
are, thinking through and hopefully will come up with the best solution forward. Because, people must, the candidate must be seen. The candidate must be seen in the districts, in the villages. The candidate must go to the people and speak to them. But if you don't have the opportunity to have that close encounter with them, the Ghanaian culture is such that if you don't come to me, then you don't value my vote or my presence. So I mean, in the days to follow, I'm sure we'll hear me as a presidential correspondent who follows the president around everywhere he goes.
Mhm.
With the exception of COVID, uh, movement has been, clarified. Now there is even social distance in the press corps van, and even events that take place at the Jubilee House, where I go to every morning to cover the president activities.
Mhm.
Now they limit the number of media personnel that should be in one room or the other. So after the event, the media personnel must come together and now share information so that they can report back to their various media houses. But following the president on campaign trail means that you have to be in a van
Mhm.
and you have to be out of town for some time a month. You have to sleep in a hotel sometimes with your camera person. And we are all waiting to hear what the presidency and the campaign team will say regarding the campaigns and going forward. Because the information must be out there. People make their decision based on what they hear on radio and see on TV. So if you are not there, it is assumed that you don't value their vote and they may use that to even punish you come December 7th. So it is a very difficult situation the parties found themselves in. But I'm sure that in the days to follow, they may come up with strategies as to how they will campaign across the country and still not bring in so many people because it is an understandable fact that the more people congregate, the more the virus spread.
Exactly. I sure hope the media will be of very good use at this time and to be able to kind of get the message across um, to the people. So, can you tell us what the NDC is doing as well?
So so the NDC as a party, they are also left with one more hurdle to cross, and that is the naming of a running mate for John Dramani Mahama. People have been asking why it's taking them so long to name their running mates as of now with some few months ago. Usually, when you are in opposition, you have so much time on your hands to do a lot of things. A government in power is saddled with, dealing with business regarding the state. So sometimes they don't have a lot of time to do party politics. But in opposition, you have so much time. And John Mahama was elected flag bearer of the party over a year ago.
Yeah. So, what
And
is
with
taking them
just
so long?
it is difficult to tell. And but what we are hearing is that hopefully within this week, he may also hold a news conference, meet with the council of the party, and submit the name of his running mate to them. If the council of the party approves of his nomination, then you will make that name public. Remember that they went to the Supreme Court challenging the Electoral Commission's decision to compile a new voters register. Only last Thursday, the Supreme Court ruled on the matter and dismissed some of the reliefs that were being sought by the NDC. And one of them was the fact that the Supreme Court will rule that the Electoral Commission should accept the old voters register as proof of citizenship to enable people register. But the EC had gone to Parliament with a constitutional instrument 126, 120, which says that you can only register onto the new voters register if you hold a Ghanaian passport or have the Ghana card, and that they will not accept the old voters register because they feel that the current voters register is broken because we have people who are not Ghanaians on the voters register. So if you allow people to come and register with the old voters register, they really have not done anything to sanitize the voters register. The Supreme Court, ruled in the EC's favor and said that the EC can go ahead to do the registration using the constitutional instrument 127 that matured in Parliament, which automatically bars anybody coming to register with the old voters ID card. You can only register with a passport, a Ghana card. If you don't have any, somebody must come and say that indeed you are a Ghanaian, and then you can go to the registration process. The NDC at the news conference Thursday night by John Mahama, the running mate, disagreed with the ruling of the Supreme Court and even chastised the Supreme Court and the Electoral Commission of sort of working in tandem with the ruling government to disenfranchise people they perceive to be non-Ghanaians. So, with that out of the way, and all the parties now accepting that if you want to win the election, you need to rally your people to go and register. It is the way forward for all the political parties. What is left for John Mahama and the NDC is to name their running mates, and then the campaign will start, the debates will start, the messages will start, the counter debates will start, and the Ghanaians can listen to them and make an informed decision out of who is best suited to lead the country.
Okay, so in my understanding, they want to go ahead and do this new register. With this COVID going on, and most countries have shut their borders, how long are they going to be open to do the registration? And
So
if
the register.
like,
Mhm.
okay, go ahead.
Okay, I thought you were asking me how long the registration is going to last.
Yes.
It is starting on Tuesday. The calendar announced by the Electoral Commission. It will start on Tuesday, 30th June, and it's going to last for close to a month. And then after that, they will do exhibition where if there is a mistake with some of the particulars provided by the applicants, they will have the opportunity to correct them. And after that, they will begin to issue the voters ID card. And they are working with the Ghana Health Service, so they will have health personnel at all the polling centers to ensure that people's temperature, if you should avail yourself for registration, your temperature will first be taken, and then you should wear a nose mask, and then your hands will be sanitized, and then you go through the registration process. And those who do the registrations will have also been provided with personal protective equipment to ensure they protect themselves from contracting COVID-19. So they appear to have everything in place, but that is on paper. On Tuesday, we'll test whatever they have on paper, and then we can, convince ourselves that indeed when you go to the registration center, you will be safe from contracting any disease.
So what is the government doing to help Ghanaians stuck in other countries that they're not able to return to Ghana to register for this new proceedings?
Well, the thing is that, Parliament, some time back, it's over 10 years now, passed the Representation of the People's Amendment Law, ROPA. And that law says that Ghanaians who live abroad can register and vote in national elections. Now, the EC has not been able to implement the law because they've always said that they are still in the process of putting together the structures to enable them register Ghanaians who are living abroad. Now, early this year, somebody took the matter to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled in the person's favor and directed the Electoral Commission to ensure that Ghanaians abroad are given the opportunity to register and vote in the upcoming general elections. This week, when we spoke to the Director of Elections of the Electoral Commission, we made them understand that they have put before Parliament another CI, another constitutional instrument, and this CI is supposed to spell out how they can undertake registration of Ghanaians abroad, and then how they can also participate in the voting process. So hopefully, if the CI matures and the EC has what it takes to register and get people like you to vote, it means that you can vote with the Ghanaian embassy close to you when the opportunity is presented to you.
Well, that is really good to know. What the current government is going. And do you hear anything from the citizens how the current government have handled the COVID-19 when it started and where we are at right now?
Well, the our current figures, as I checked this evening, I think it's gone up. We've recorded some new cases as announced by the Ghana Health Service. I'm trying to refresh my my tablet to give you the latest figure, but the death stands at 93. Okay, so what we have is that the new cases recorded by the Ghana Health Service in the last 24 hours is 597. And out of the 597, okay, out of all the cases recorded since Ghana recorded its first case on March 12th, we have 16,431 confirmed cases. That's how much we have had. And out of the 16,000, 12,225 they have recovered and they've been discharged. The active cases 4,071, and 103 people have died from COVID-19 so far. And if you follow the news, when it became clear that the country had to do something to avert an outbreak, government locked down Accra and Kumasi
Hmm.
and also announced a social intervention program for pushing people who will be staying home. That includes, people paying 50% for electricity and water for free for 3 months, which is coming to an end next month. And since then, government has gone ahead to lift the lockdown, lift some of the restrictions, and government is convinced that from the from the data and science, they understand the dynamics and how the virus works, and so they have a handle on it. That's how come you have so many people recovering.
Hmm.
But still, what they have put together and what they are asking Ghanaians to adhere to is still in session. Indeed, for the North Month, the EI is in force for the next 3 months, and churches cannot open full. Only 100 people can participate. And even in the secondary schools, there are limited people who go to class. Same for the universities. And they've cancelled assembly gathering, sports activities, play during breaks, and all that. But people's attitude to the virus and the need for people to adhere to the state protocols has always been a concern for government, and people really some still feel that COVID-19 is not real. It is just a ploy by government to do whatever it wants to do. So you have some recalcitrant people who are simply refuse to adhere to the safety protocols, and thereby, allowing the cases to rise, and with more health personnel, becoming victims of COVID-19.
Wow. Well, the good news is some are listening and some are not, but I will really advise everybody to follow protocols, listen to what the government is telling them because this virus is real and it's killing people. And we can all do our parts to keep everybody safe. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Elton Drobe, and thank you for coming on today and sharing this with us. I hope whenever we call on you, you make yourself available.
Thank you very much to you, and thanks for having me. And we'll also be available to share what is happening back home.
Well, thank you for your time. We will send you out now.
This is FireOne Radio. Thanks for listening.
Mighty man of war, Lion of Judah, we bow. Thank you, Jesus. You're the God that kills and also make alive. You're the lion, yes, you are the Lamb of God. Yahweh, Yahweh, come and do what only you can do. You are my glory and the lifter up of my head. Demonstrable at the mention of your name, oh, Daddy, oh, God of thunder, you're the God of fire. Yeah. Come and do what only you can do. Mighty man of war, mighty man of war, Lion of Judah, we bow down and worship you. Yahweh, 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 come and do what only you can do. Mighty man of war, Lion of Judah, we bow down and worship you. Yahweh, Yahweh, come and do what only you can do. You're the father to the fatherless. You're the mother to the motherless. The husband to the widow. You're the head to the headless. My healer. You are my deliverer. Come and do what only you can do.
Okay, mighty man of warrior, come and do what only you can do. Next on our program, we want to open up our lines to our listeners.
And our viewers to call in and share your views on this particular topic. The Supreme Court verdict on the voters register and the Ghana government handling of COVID-19 so far. And also, who do you think will be the best leader for the country? If you have any views on these three questions, you can call in on our studio line 303-800-6277, 303-800-6277. And if you're outside the United States and you prefer calling on WhatsApp, that number is 720-238-1489. 720-238-1489. But before then, I do have a video that we want to show. The NDC, their reaction on this matter.
To throw light and to interpret to avoid absurdity itself will give a ruling which consequence is absurdity. And therefore, the only person who can calm nerves and get Ghanaians committed to the pursuit of the entitled and guaranteed right under Article 42 is no mean the person than John Dramani Mahama. I have the singular honor to hand over the mic to him to speak to the country on this matter. Mr. President, Excellency.
Thank you, my brothers and sisters. Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and sisters, earlier today, the Supreme Court of the Republic of Ghana gave its ruling in a case brought by the National Democratic Congress against the Electoral Commission of Ghana over its decision to compile a new voters register. Despite the well-reasoned reliefs we sought, the apex court of our land has given a leeway for the Electoral Commission to go ahead with the exclusion of the existing voter identification card from the list of identification requirements for the registration for the register. My brothers and sisters, we're deeply disappointed and we strongly disagree with the court over this outcome, which has confounded many legal experts and indeed has thrown the whole country into a state of confusion. Our legal team is examining this decision even as we await the full reasons for this judgment. It is also worrying that the court deferred the reasons for its decision to the 15th of July, a date by which time the EC would have been 2 weeks into the said registration exercise. My brothers and sisters, throughout its history, the NDC has stood strongly for an inclusive democracy. That is because our party is built on the principle that no one should be left out in the governance process of Ghana. This principle may be seen through the various programs and projects upon which our democracy is built. The composition of the Consultative Assembly which prepared the 1992 Constitution, the consultations for the review of the Constitution in 2010, which stands out as the most comprehensive consultative program in our history and the history of the sub-region, just to mention a few. The MPP tradition, on the other hand, has since the founding of our nation always stood for an exclusive governance structure, a structure which seeks to leave out the ordinary men and women of our country, a structure which rather favors only a select elite few who consider themselves as owners of the nation. To ensure this, the MPP has, since its assumption of power in 2017, consistently put in place measures which seek to systematically disenfranchise eligible citizens of this nation. Such measures include restricting the identification mechanism for voter registration to documents which are not accessible currently to millions of eligible Ghanaian voters. We have been very clear in our minds that the decision to compile a new voters register was in pursuit of this long-held agenda. Hence our efforts to stop the wholesale attempt to exclude vast sections of our population from the process to determine who leads them. This represents the handiwork of a desperate incumbent that, on account of its very poor performance in government, sees its very political survival only through the prism of manipulation of the electoral process to exclude a section of Ghanaians who they suspect may not renew their mandates at the polls. A caring, compassionate, and responsible government would not push us to the brink at a time of a major pandemic such as COVID-19 that is causing so much anguish amongst our citizens. It is deeply regrettable that the Electoral Commission, which should be independent and has carved a niche for itself as a well-respected commission in the whole of Africa, has today made itself a willing tool in the execution of this most diabolic agenda. The exclusion of the old voters' ID card, which has been used to conduct several elections under the current leadership of the Electoral Commission, and from which the current president derives his mandate, is aimed at deliberately disenfranchising some Ghanaians who have falsely been branded foreigners without any basis. The restriction of primary identification to passports, Ghana cards, and the resort to guaranteeing for others is a ruse to create frustration in the hope that it will discourage millions from registering, and in the process it will give advantage ab initio to a bungling and inefficient incumbent. The Ghana card, which has been made one of two identification documents, has not even been fully rolled out. As we speak, these cards are still being issued with no mechanism for verification. The National Identification Authority, the NIA, has itself admitted to duplication of thousands of these cards. Therefore, the NDC's decision to go to the Supreme Court was informed by the party's time-honored belief and commitment to an inclusive democracy as opposed to the MPP's exclusiveness. However, it was obvious from the outset of this struggle that inclusive democracy was not going to have a hearing, even against the resounding calls by the National House of Chiefs, religious leaders, civil society organizations, and various trade and professional groups. My brothers and sisters, the right to vote must, however, not be curtailed on account of this minor setback. We cannot throw our hands up in despair because the fight to insist on inclusion has been temporarily derailed by this ruling of the Supreme Court. We can still make our voices heard, even if we must endure some inconvenience and frustration. To achieve the objective of taking part in the decision over who governs us, we must be willing to make the necessary sacrifices in the present circumstances. I therefore urge all Ghanaians of voting age to channel the disappointment at the effort to exclude them from the electoral process into an opportunity to have their voices heard and turn up to register in their teeming numbers when the process begins next week, Tuesday. The NPP and the Electoral Commission are very much aware that the exclusion of the existing voters' ID will significantly slow down the process of registration and create the real risk of people massing up outside voter centers. But this is what happens when politics is put before the people. While at it, let us keep safe by adhering strictly to all the COVID-19 preventive protocols, such as social distancing, the wearing of face masks, among others, particularly because of the increasing trend in the number of infections and deaths recorded in our country. And I pray that the Almighty God should protect all our citizens who come out to exercise their constitutional right to register from any sickness or infection by this disease. The process may be made deliberately slow and painful, but I encourage you all to endure insofar as it will enable you to vote out this government that has masterminded this frustration in the first place. We must always be willing to hold leaders accountable for bad decisions that impose difficulties on our citizens. And this is one such clear opportunity to do so. Do not let the several hours you may spend at the registration center get you to surrender your right to vote. If you do so, that will only embolden those who seek to disenfranchise you. To the few who have passports and Ghana cards, please make use of them and register. And to those who get the opportunity to register, I implore you to assist your brothers, your sisters, and compatriots by guaranteeing for them, even if it takes a bit more of your time. Please see this as a civic duty and your contribution to the efforts to preserve the right to vote. This way, we will undo the grand conspiracy to deprive us of the inalienable right to vote, and we will, in the process, send a clear signal that it is only we, the people, who will decide who gets the opportunity to lead this country, and not governments we elect or state agencies who make themselves pliant accomplices in their attempt to disenfranchise us. My brothers and sisters, this is not just an NDC fight. It is a fight to rescue the very soul of our beloved nation from the hands of those who seek to impose their will unjustly on our people. Our forefathers founded this nation with the motto, freedom and justice. It is clear today that never in the history of our Fourth Republic have these two lofty ideals been in such short supply. I salute all the diverse organizations, civil society organizations, prominent chiefs, organized labor, religious leaders, professional groups, and all well-meaning Ghanaians who have rallied around this cause to demand that the right thing be done in the larger national interest. I call on all Ghanaians who yearn to see a change in the governance of this country to rise up and be counted, for where there's a will, there's a way. No politically engineered register can save this failed government. From the judgment of the people, from the inevitable defeat that awaits them in the next 165 days. With or without a new voters register, the NDC shall win the election by the grace of God. And I leave you with this famous quote by Emperor Haile Selassie. And he said, throughout history, it has been the inaction of those who could have acted, the indifference of those who should have known better, and the silence of the voice of justice when it mattered most that has made it possible for evil to triumph. I thank you for your kind attention.
God bless. God.
Come and do what only you can do.
Okay, as you
Go
heard,
ahead. Go out whenever they open up to register you to vote. Encourage your friends, your family to do that so that your voices will be heard. My lines are open. If you want to call and share your views on these matters, you're welcome to do that. 303-800-6277 on the studio line. And if you're calling on WhatsApp, that is 720-238-1489. Hello.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. My name is Tia, and I'm calling from Pakistan.
Well, thanks for
I was
calling
just
in.
wondering. So, I have a concern
Mm-hmm.
about the people of Ghana. I have seen so many videos on the social media that people are not practicing the social distancing. They're not wearing the nose mask properly, and they're probably expecting the government to show them or teach them how to wear the nose mask. But I've seen also that people are wearing the face shield, which is not covering the nose,
Mm-hmm.
and all they think is like they think this is right, which is not right, and they shouldn't expect the government to teach them or learn because all these are like shown around the world of how to cover the nose or how to wear the nose mask properly and all that.
Mm-hmm.
If only the people of Ghana can just like know the danger of this virus and also protect themselves and not wait for the government to tell them what to do, that would really be appreciated because they have a lot of back problems that are not really practicing or don't know the danger of this virus.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can just probably have a safety awareness shows and people showing people or directing people how to wear these masks, probably like following the rules, that would really help.
I totally agree with you.
That's my
This is just really simple. You protect yourself, protecting others. If you love your neighbor as yourself, you would do just this simple thing. Just put on a face mask when you're going out. I really appreciate you saying that, and that is really true. So, what is your intake? What do you think? Did the government handle this situation well from the word go, or were they too late to be shutting things down? Or what is your intake on that?
I think the government too, because when this thing hits the different parts of the country, they should have taken measures of, you know, creative fees of women TV showing directing people how to wear the nose mask, but not just cover the lips. Because I see a lot of videos that people cover the lips rather than the nose
Mm-hmm.
because it's a respiratory disease. So you could just get affected with the nose, not just the mouth. So they have to cover the nose and not just the mouth whenever they talking in public. And I saw a video of a kid in Japan the last time talking to the media with his nose mask down. And then after that, when he was released, that he put on the nose mask, which was not right.
Mm-hmm.
So even the leaders are not even practicing that.
So how do they expect the
So
people in the country to follow?
yeah, so I guess it's just based on the individual. They just have to protect themselves because the government cannot do anything about it. I know
Exactly.
what the president is doing is good about for arresting people who are not wearing that, but they just have to do follow the rules so they don't get affected. Because this virus is real and it's killing people.
So with the
So that's
pastors
but
preaching out there that it's spiritual, or do you believe in that as well?
no,
Okay, so it is
I don't believe
real.
in that. It is real. It is real.
Well,
If
I
you put the
appreciate
things
you
that you
so
did,
much.
if you don't have people who've been affected, you would think that it's just a paper or just people making it up. But once you know people who have been affected, then you know that this is real.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate you calling, and I hope they will do the right thing to protect themselves and protect others.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for calling.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. My lines are still open. If you would like to call, it's not too late to call in and share your views on the Supreme Court verdict on the voters register, the government of Ghana handling of the COVID, and also who do you think will be the best leader to lead Ghana?
This is FireOne Radio.
Thanks for listening.
in today. I wish you all the best. Have a very blessed afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Hope you're tuning in again with us soon. We love you. Stay blessed and stay safe.